Good morning and welcome to Judging by the Cover. Today we are going to be looking at NieR Automata. I hope I'm pronouncing that right. Now, mind you, just as a quick little precursor here, this series that I'm doing is very unscripted, off the cuff. I check out the trailers, I look at the store page, and I basically give my judgment on a game based on that. Now, this is one that has been recommended to me a couple of times by a friend of mine. Uh, Goes by Bermethi online. Some people may have seen him here and there. But we have a little bit of history, and he's recommended this one to me, not just because of oh my gosh, sexy android lady. Because let's be clear, the visual design of the character is clearly intentional to be that eye-grabbing thing, but the actual gameplay and narrative do look incredible. And I'm sure that you can come up with some kind of a narrative reason why they make your main character, your classically pretty lady. She is an android made by a human resistance group trying to fight against a more blocky robotic counterpart that I guess has invaded the world. I don't know. The game details, the game information does go into a little bit of that. So we're going to go ahead and jump into the description here, where it tells us. Now it has a lot of high scores on here from main channels. There is the award-winning post-apocalyptic, the Game of the Yorha edition is what we're looking at here, which I'm guessing that's something in universe. So NieR Automata tells the story of androids 2B, 9S, and A2 and their battle to reclaim the machine-driven dystopia overrun by powerful machines. Humanity has been driven from the Earth by mechanical beings from another world. In a final effort to take back the planet, the human resistance sends a force of android soldiers to destroy the invaders. And now a war between machines and androids rages on, a war that could soon unveil a long-forgotten truth of the world. So you have a lot of room there just from that description for all kinds of narrative directions of, they say that the machines came from outside of the world, but I wouldn't put it past humanity knowing, humanity's penchant for self-destruction. If humanity made those machines and is now unable to control them, so they made these androids that they have a better controlled, like a better programmed control over in order to exact their agenda. Now, that's just me speculating here. I have no idea if that is actually the story, but whether that's the story or whether the story is something else entirely that I'm completely off base about, visually and narratively, I love the look of this. It's fluid, the animation is crisp. It looks like the controls move very fluidly. I know I haven't played this one, but I have played some games that have other kinds of, action RPG kind of movement. Particularly I'm getting kind of a little bit of a Kingdom Hearts as far as the movement and control vibe goes. Not this first one, but the second one. I've played those first two ones, where the second one had a very fluid, action-driven motion to its to how it felt to play and control your character. I'm getting that kind of motif here, or like Bayonetta, where you have your combo of melee and range attacks, and you're basically trying to do that. And it does boast the action-packed battles where players switch between melee and ranged against hordes of enemies, which that sounds kind of like a what was the series? The series of like large scale warfare where you play as a commander kind of thing. Um, Dynasty Warriors was that franchise that had that kind of a thing where it was large scale battles across huge open maps. So you're switching between melee and range against hordes of enemies and bosses across a variety of open field maps. The tight controls and incredibly fluid combat are simple to learn for newcomers while offering plenty of depth for more experienced action gamers. Players can perform high speed action battle actions, combining light and heavy attacks, and switch through an arsenal of weaponry while evading enemies with speed and style. And that really speaks to the kind of thing that I had experienced with Bayonetta, like I mentioned with that comparison earlier. Um, I do like that they highlight that, you can be a newcomer to games and pretty much pick it up and go with it, but it also has a depth so that if you are experienced with these types of games, or you are good at like figuring out mechanics and putting together your combos and chains and builds, that you can discover ways to make the game more fluid and maybe probably easier in use of that. It says beautifully desolate open world. The game seamlessly joins together hauntingly beautiful vistas and locations with no area loading. So we got true open world here. The environments are rendered in 60 frames per second and contain a wealth of sub events in addition to the main storyline. Now I know they boast the fluidity and the 60 frames per second, but that those details are also going to depend on your computer and your system. And since the game is from 2017, I don't doubt that on most like newer systems today should be able to handle this without too much of problem or without any issue. Excuse me. Tells us masterfully crafted story and characters. NieR Automata tells the story of it's telling us again. 2B, 9S, and A2, and their ferocious battle to reclaim a machine different. It's basically okay. This note here is just repeating what's up ahead. That I got to mark some points off for that on their presentation of the store page, but just the presentation of the store page. Elements of an RPG. Players will obtain a variety of weapon types, level up in battle, learn new combat skills, and customize a loadout that caters to their playstyle. That again feels kind of like that little bit of Kingdom Hearts action RPG kind of format, like I mentioned. You utilize a pod support system to assist in and out of battle. Pods can attack the enemy in both manual and lock on modes. So you do have in the trailers, you see this little thing flying over your shoulder. That's got to be the little pod. And I noticed in one of the trailers, it did have it shooting at enemies as a support. So it probably causes a little extra disruption, a little interruption in enemy attack patterns just by jarring them a little bit so that you can slip in and get your style attacks in. Pods can be enhanced throughout the game with upgrades, including new attack methods and variations. And they do boast down here an auto mode available for beginners. Novice players can elect auto mode for easy attacks and evasions. So for people who aren't as versed in action RPGs or tight, crisp combat like this, they do mention in the store here that there is a way to make it easier. They basically have it in what I feel like is their form of an easy mode, which I know there's some discourse on difficulty and accessibility for players where some people kind of prefer games to be made in that Dark Souls route where the game has a definitive intended difficulty without the much of an option to turn off that difficulty. The game is demanding your mastery of it in order to succeed. Whereas other games and other gamers do like games that have difficulty options so that if they want that challenge, they can play on the harder difficulty. But if they want to go ahead and just kind of breeze through and enjoy the story while, having easier gameplay, like they want to play the game, but they don't want it to be brutally difficult. And that way they can get through the game and get through the story a little more comfortably. I personally fall into that second camp where I will usually play a game, like I'll start it on a normal difficulty, but if I'm not having a good time with the gameplay but still want to experience the story, I'm not opposed to having an easy mode of the game if the story is that engaging. So I do like that the store page mentions that auto mode, in which could also be incredibly accessible for people who maybe have uh more impaired motor skills or ability, like if they can't handle a controller in snappy action RPG combat that well. And speaking of the action RPG combat, the trailers are spectacularly gorgeous. They do show a lot, and the screenshots give us some extra snippets here where you see slashes, you see the characters in their standard outfits, which, like I said, they definitely made the characters to be your conventionally attractive, uh, you know, go- uh, goth bondage mommies. if you know, to give it that little motif here. But they give you a mix of swords. We see large swords, we see slender swords, we see a lot of options for weaponry. I'm guessing that this one is 2B, the main character. I have seen, you know, images of 2B in like throughout the world. And they do show now, obviously, the outfit is a little bit revealing, but not so much to the point of like, oh my gosh, that's utterly distracting. It does look like the outfit is easy to move around in. And when it comes to, you know, your combat attire, mobility is pretty important. It's just that you also have some style in there. Although I will say the heels, in a normal human, I feel like heels would kind of hinder mobility. But then again, this is an android we're talking about. So I'm sure that narratively speaking, you can justify, oh my gosh, those heels would be impossible to walk in. But like this is machinery working here. The machinery is going to be calibrated and programmed in order to compensate for any kind of difficulty like that. We do have a whole lot of enemies of tremendously different size and scale. Like this one, you look like you're fighting a freaking construction rig, which quite frankly is incredible looking. And again, this harkens back to the kind of feeling that I got from Bayonetta, where you are fighting larger than life entities. It's just that instead of, you know, demons and angels, this time it's machines. And then you have some of your enemies that look like they might be considered kind of cannon fodder. They look very generic and laid out here, but I'm sure that they have their own challenge to them, especially when you put them into numbers. They do boast the gorgeous landscapes, the dystopian landscapes. So we have these ruined cities that are overgrown from untold ages of abandonment, where it seems like nature is kind of reclaiming the land. As I'm sure the machines don't really care much for the human structures and settlements, they probably prefer very much their own existence. We do see them here fighting in the water, and the water looks pretty well rendered here too in the fight scene. We have our characters just laid out here. We have another fight scene, and yet another fight scene with, quite frankly, an incredible looking missile array with the looks like an exploding, an explosive ball gown kind of robot. So a lot of flavor to the machines as well. And then what looks like a cute, wholesome moment with 2B and the whoever the pod character is, where she is straight up, she's petting it like a dog. So all that said, NieR Automata, I am giving this game, the core game itself here, I rate this very favorably. Its look, its vibe, its tone is just off the charts. I am going to give this a 9 out of 10 for judging by the cover based on its presentation here. Even considering that it is on a $40 price tag. Now, that is $40 price tag for the Game of the Yorha edition, which, you know, I would expect a game like this to fully hit that $60 price tag. I don't know if it was 60 when it first came out, or if it is 60 on other platforms like consoles with a physical copy, but here on Steam, $40, not on sale. It definitely seems like a fair price. If I had the time and the budget to just dump on any game that I would want to play, this one would be one that I would pay full price for, but due to my own time and budget constraints, I'm going to put it on my watch list to see if it goes on sale. If it does, if it goes on a really good sale, I could see myself picking this up and sitting on it for a little while. But before that, there is one other thing, and I think this is what is really holding it back from being a perfect 10 out of 10, is the NieR Automata 3C3C1D119440927. Yes, I'm reading that whole thing out, and I'm going to continue to read the whole thing out each time I say this when I'm referring to the DLC, because what the hell is that title? Like, is that a serial number? What is that? But the trailers, first I looked at the trailers of this and I'm like, okay, so it looks like the DLC is mostly a battle arena, so a challenge arena, and the last trailer at the end after the screenshots is a basically straight up uncut gameplay footage of going into the arena and starting around at the lowest rank. But what really struck me here was that in this trailer, or in a couple of the trailers here, it blew my fucking mind. Now, spoiler warnings. Well, it's right in the trailer. So if anybody wants to avoid spoiler warnings, this is your notice to go ahead and skip ahead the video a little bit, or to avoid these trailers. But then again, this game came out in 2017. I'm sure most people already know about this. The fucking CEO of Square Enix comes in and you fight him. Like, imagine, not just the Sephiroth fight in Kingdom Hearts. I know I made the Kingdom Hearts comparison because of the action fluid gameplay style. But imagine, Sephiroth in Kingdom Hearts. No, no, no. Screw that. We're fighting the fucking CEO of Square Enix. And then, if that wasn't enough, there's apparently a two-part fight where the second part has another CEO from another company coming in, and you fight both of them at the same time. That is like some meta shit, and the game even warns you that it that it will break your immersion. The game warns you that if you go through with this, your immersion is going to be shot, which you even get the option to just say immersion smmersion. You just screw it, throw it at me. The DLC pack adds revealing out. Oh, it also adds the revealing outfit, which you can basically run around and fight in lingerie. The revealing outfit costume for 2B, young man's outfit for 9S, and destroyer outfit for A2. After completing new subquests in this DLC, you can enjoy playing the game while wearing these costumes from NieR Replicant, which is apparently another NieR game. Apparently, which there are three. So, I did not realize there were three. I thought there was just this one. And there's two others. And my buddy that recommended this to me razzed me when I was like, "Oh man, yeah, I could imagine there being another game in this series." And he's like, "Actually, there's two." And I'm like, "What? What?" Yeah, that was a thing. That was an exchange that happened, and it was right there on Discord. I think it even happened like in our public Discord chat. Anyway, the subquests take the form of three different battle challenges at three different coliseums. I did see the trailer did showcase after winning one of them, you get alternate hair colors, so you get to customize your character a little bit after getting these challenges. Um, Special music video: NieR Automata meets Amazarashi, Deserving of Life, from collaboration with rock band Amazarashi, and it's also included as part of the scenario. We hope you have fun with this content. And they do a constant flipping of capital and lowercase letters, which I'm sure is something to do with the branding and the narrative and how they structure the language and the text in the game. To enjoy this contest, you need to have progressed a certain way into the main story of the game. There are also some scenes during the progression of the main game scenario in which this content cannot be accessed. So it is cool that they give you a little warning here that's like, yeah, you in order to enjoy this, you need to reach certain benchmarks of the main game, and at certain points you will be locked out of it, probably because of narrative reasons. I know a lot of games do offer kinds of like slowdown moments that can feel a little jarring. Like, imagine in a Legend of Zelda game where you take a break from saving the world from complete and total annihilation to go fishing. But this game is like, no, when there's something too the store page is letting us know that it's like, look, there are going to be times where you're locked out of the content, and I imagine it's because they want to avoid those kinds of narrative dissonance moments. But the trailers do show a lot of fun stuff. We see right here, the CEO fight, shooting heads. It gives this very Sword Art Online abridged fight with Kayaba Akihiko kind of moment. And specifically the abridged, because they really play it off for laughs in that. And it does seem that this fight, though it is a hell of a fight, it looks like they don't want you to take it too seriously, even though, you will be taking it seriously to fight. He does like these freaking matrix moves and all that shit. We do have our screenshots here. They do a little bit of posing to spice it up, which kind of leads, like, it leans more into the, yeah, they're taking on some of that Bayonetta type of branding with the characters' looks and all that. The revealing outfit, it straight up looks like it. There's no getting around it. NieR, the 2B, she's wearing lingerie while in a battle arena against giant robots. The young man outfit, I'm guessing this is the young man outfit. It looks more plain, more, I wouldn't say like conservative or modest, but I mean, a very standard like shirt and shorts kind of look. NieR, we do have more fights in the arena, which looks like a robot jockey instead of a chicken jockey. He's got like one mounted on another. A little bit of a some flower cutscene event. We got all the other scenes going on. But yeah, there's just so much going on there. Now, I will say with the DLC, I am going to have to give this the DLC. Yes, I'm giving it its own separate rating, but the rating of 9 out of 10 for NieR Automata is 9 out of 10 for that game, in part because of the DLC. But I think the DLC kind of deserves its own rating, where I'm giving it a 7 out of 10 as a DLC thing because it is a $10 DLC. Now, I'm sure that content wise, it looks like it gives you enough content and enough action, enough extra gameplay to warrant that for the $10. It's just that it feels weird to have it in as $10 for what sounds like a costume DLC, but at the same time, you don't just get it's telling you that you don't get the costumes outright, that you basically have to achieve something to unlock them. And I've seen other games where they do have DLC costumes, and that's kind of a thing where it's like, okay, so I basically paid to just reskin my main character. It's like, no, no. This one, you're paying for the Battle Arena challenge and this, but at the same time, the base game was $40. I feel like if you're gonna have something like that, either just bundle it together and or just have it all as one package for $50, because that feels like a complete game with a complete price in its own right, instead of selling the game and then selling a costume DLC with battle arena. Like it seems like they're very much selling you a battle arena that does have side quests, but it doesn't have like its own main story the way that other DLC, like other games DLCs, have their own, like, it is a side story or a post game story on top of that, but it feels like it actually adds more to the base game as opposed to just the battle arena. Although maybe I'm mistaken there. Maybe there is some narrative reason. They do show in the last trailer here that, yes, this is against regulations for the resistance group, but we're all just trying to cope and get by here because we need to break up the monotony of, constantly being at war, which is kind of weird that they break up the monotony of constantly being at war by fighting. You would think that that would be like the last thing they'd want to do. But anyway, that is what it is. I'm saying 7 out of 10 rating for the DLC. Maybe I'm wrong in my judgment for that, but again, this is a judgment by the cover, by the store page. But the base game, NieR Automata, 9 out of 10, solid. I'll be keeping my eyes on that. If it goes on a really good sale, I may eventually find myself picking this up and giving it my own shot. For anybody else out there who has played it, let me know what you think. I have heard that the game has some wild achievements, and very much leans into some of the tropes and motifs for those achievements and for those kinds of character moments. But played maybe a little more so for the comedy, and that's just stuff that I've heard. It's not advertised here, and it's mostly stuff that I can guess at just by the look of the characters. So with that, thank you again, everybody, for tuning in to my bullshit series where I look at video games that I have never played and actually give them a rating score. Everyone else out there, have a good night and stay safe.